We live in a time where the dating landscape has shifted dramatically from what it was just a few decades ago. One of the core reasons behind this change is the rise of a culture that promotes female promiscuity and casual sex as empowering. At first glance, this might seem liberating, tearing down outdated taboos, giving women more agency over their sexuality. But beneath that surface-level freedom, there are serious consequences that ripple through the dating market, and they affect both men and women in profound ways. In this type of culture, where casual sex is widely accepted and even encouraged, women are the sexual selectors. They have easy, almost unlimited access to sex, especially through dating apps and social media. Because of this abundance, women tend to filter out the average man and instead chase after the top tier, the most attractive, charismatic, wealthy, or high-status men. These are the men who dominate the attention economy, the ones who have the most access to short-term options. And here's the problem. This access creates the illusion of romantic abundance. When women are constantly being pursued through DMs, dating apps, social media likes, and casual encounters, it can feel like they have infinite romantic options. But most of that attention is not for commitment. It's for access. It's not about being loved. It's about being desired. And that illusion leads to heightened pickiness. Many women start to believe they can hold out for the perfect man. Someone who's attractive, successful, emotionally available, loyal, and obsessed with them. But in chasing that ideal, they often overlook good men who would be deeply loyal and committed, simply because those men don't match the fantasy. The average man doesn't stand a chance in this environment. He's often seen as invisible, not because he lacks value, but because the bar has been raised to impossible levels. Women are comparing every man they meet to the curated highlight reels of the most elite men they've interacted with. That comparison kills potential connections before they can even start. And the result is predictable. A small percentage of men receive the majority of attention, and they don't need to commit. Not because they're anti-commitment. Many of them value relationships too, but because the culture doesn't ask them to. When casual encounters are always on the table, commitment becomes optional. And when women are chasing only these few men, it leaves everyone else out in the cold, frustrated, ignored, or completely checked out. Now compare that to a culture where casual sex isn't the default, where relationships begin with emotional connection, not physical gratification. In that kind of culture, women aren't constantly bombarded with attention, and they aren't fooled by the illusion of endless options. They evaluate men more realistically, based on character, compatibility, and shared values, not just on how flashy or smooth they are. Without that illusion, women develop expectations that are grounded, not inflated. They don't assume that just because a few high-status men flirted with them, they should hold out for nothing less. Instead, they focus on whether a man is trustworthy, kind, capable of commitment. And those things matter more than superficial metrics. As a result, more women find meaningful connections, and more men are given a real chance. And here's something important to understand. Even the men who would be considered players in a hookup culture, the ones with the looks, status, or charm, are not necessarily avoiding commitment because they dislike it. In fact, many of them do want real relationships. But in a culture that rewards casual sex and gives them endless options, there's simply no pressure to commit. Why settle down when attention and intimacy are so easily accessible? However, when the cultural tone shifts, when casual sex is rare or less expected, those same men adapt. Not because they're being forced, but because the context invites a different mindset. When casual sex is off the table, they only seek commitment from the women they feel that kind of attraction to. In that kind of culture, their energy is directed toward intentional relationships, not cycles of flings. The player persona naturally fades, not out of moral pressure, but because of opportunity cost. The effort spent seeking casual encounters becomes too high compared to the potential rewards of a committed, intentional relationship. So in cultures that value commitment, the dating market looks very different. The high-value men aren't being pulled in a dozen directions by women seeking validation. They're free to focus on one person, and the average man isn't overlooked. He's judged on what he brings to the table in the long term. It's a healthier, more balanced dynamic. At the same time, women are no longer competing for the attention of a small group of men. They're not setting themselves up for disappointment by chasing emotionally unavailable partners. They're building with men who are ready, willing, and capable of committing. They're no longer spinning in circles wondering why they can't find something real, because the cultural filter has already weeded out the ones who aren't serious. Let's go even deeper. When women are constantly pursued for sex, but rarely for commitment, it distorts how they perceive their own worth. They may begin to associate their value with how much sexual attention they receive. And when that attention fades, which it always does, it leads to confusion, self-doubt, and emotional fatigue. Men, on the other hand, are pressured to act hyper-successful and hypersexual, even when it goes against what they actually want. They're expected to impress women inside and outside of the bedroom in order to gain and keep their attention. A man feels the need to stand out among other men in the fear of being judged and ghosted. And despite this explosion of digital connection, dating apps, social media, constant texting, people feel lonelier than ever. We've built a system that promotes accessibility but not availability. We're constantly in touch, but rarely in tune. This isn't about shaming anyone's lifestyle. It's about stepping back and asking, what kind of culture are we building? And is it helping us form meaningful bonds, or is it driving us further apart? Because in cultures where casual sex is rare, people don't waste time in endless cycles of situationships. They don't confuse attention for affection. They don't chase novelty at the cost of stability. Instead, they pursue love with intention. They build slowly but deeply. And while that may not make for exciting headlines, it makes for lasting families, stronger marriages, and fewer broken hearts. In that kind of culture, women aren't left wondering why they can't find someone who wants to stay, and men aren't watching from the sidelines, wondering why no one sees their value. What you get is a more honest dating market, one that prioritizes connection over chaos and commitment over convenience. And maybe it's time we rethink what we're promoting, not because we want to go backward, but because we want something better than what we're stuck with now. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos. Until next time.